Now the next topic is the productivity. So in ecology, productivity is the rate at which energy is added to the bodies of organisms in the form of biomass. Means whatever energy the next level is using, it is making the biomass of their organisms. So biomass is simply the amount of matter that is stored in the bodies of a group of organisms. So there are two basic types of productivity, that is a gross and the net productivity. So to illustrate the difference, let's consider primary productivity, the productivity of the primary producers of an ecosystem. So gross primary productivity or GPP is what? It is a rate at which solar energy is captured in sugar molecules during photosynthesis. Then primary producers such as plants use some of this energy for metabolism, cellular respiration and some for growth. So whatever energy which is utilized by the plant, it is which is captured in the sugar molecules during photosynthesis, because by the process of photosynthesis plants prepare their food in the form of sugar molecule. So this solar energy gets converted gets stored in the sugar molecules. Then sugar molecule different forms are being used in the metabolism and in the cellular respirations, and during metabolism the products which are formed, they are helping in the growth and building of the tissues. So gross primary productivity is what? At the rate at which solar energy is captured in sugar molecules during photosynthesis. Then net primary productivity is what? It is the gross primary productivity minus the rate of energy loss to metabolism and maintenance. Means whatever the gross primary productivity is there, from that when the respiration energy is subtracted, then it becomes the net primary productivity. So in other words, it's the rate at which energy is stored as biomass by plants. Means whatever the energy which is utilized in the cellular respiration, that is gone wasted, and only the energy of the sun which is used in the formation of cells etc., that is only stored into the plants or other primary producers, and it is made available to the consumers in the ecosystem. So like in plants, when we are whatever we are eating in the plant, that is the biomass we are eating, and this biomass when it goes in our body, it is used to prepare our biomass. So this is the only the energy of the sun in the form of biomass which is available for the next level. Then the secondary productivity. Secondary productivity is the rate at which the consumers convert the chemical energy of their food into their own biomass, is called as secondary productivity. Means that whatever we are eating or any level the organisms are consuming, the previous level, that is converted into chemical energy of their food into their own biomass. So that is called as the secondary productivity. The efficiency at which energy is transferred from one trophic level to another is called as ecological efficiency. Means at the rate at which the energy which is present at one level, it is transferred, how effectively it is getting transferred to the next trophic level, that is called as the ecological efficiency. Then comes the term decomposition. It means the breakdown. So it typically corresponds to the disintegration or rupture of complex organic matter into a simpler or inorganic matter. Means our body or any living organism's body, is made of complex organic matter. So this complex organic matter is broken down into the simpler inorganic matter. It is one of the significant and essential process of the ecosystem. Hence, decomposition is a metabolic process taking up raw materials in the form of complex compounds, processing it, and then converting it into simpler compounds. So, bacteria, fungi, and some other microorganisms, they initiate the process of decomposition, and so they are known as decomposers because they feed on dead organic matter or dead organisms to survive. So what happens? The decaying and dead animals and plants serve as the raw materials which on the breakdown produces nutrients, carbon dioxide and water, etc. So this is called as the detritus. Detritus are, what is detritus? Detritus are the raw materials such as dead animals, plants and their remains. So microbes then process this detritus and which is collectively known as saprophytes. So the microorganisms which are using the detritus as their source of nutrition, they are collectively known as saprophytes because saprophytes feed on dead organic matter or dead organisms. Now, in the process of decomposition, this process provides essential nutrients for plants and also for the growth and development of new organisms. So in this complete process of decomposition takes place in 5 steps. First one is fragmentation. So it is the initial stage of decomposition. In fragmentation, breakdown of detritus into smaller pieces is taking place by detritivores. Detritivores are again the organisms which are breaking down the big uh, flesh of the dead organisms or the dead plants into smaller pieces. Then the next step is leaching. The fragmented particles may contain a lot of water soluble nutrients which are inorganic in nature. So these nutrients get dissolved in water and seep into the soil and get precipitated in the process of leaching. So the water soluble nutrients which are present into the dead organism, they dissolve in water and precipitate and go into the soil by the process of leaching. Next step of the decomposition is the catabolism. So once the complex material is broken down into smaller particles and the inorganic nutrients are removed, it is time to convert the detritus into simpler inorganic compounds. So this process is carried out by various fungal and bacterial enzymes by the process of catabolism. Then humification, it is a process of formation of dark colored layer of amorphous substance on the soil called humus. So after the catabolism, the organic matter gets converted into dark colored substance and this is called as humus, and this conversion of the detritus into humus is called as humification. It cannot be decomposed easily as it is highly resistant to the action of microbes. So the layer of humus is very rich in nutrients as it provides high fertility to the soil as it contains large amount of inorganic nutrients. Then after that will be the mineralization. So this is the final step of the process of decomposition. Mineralization is the process of degradation of humus to release inorganic nutrients. Then there are certain factors which are affecting the decomposition. So first one is litter quality, means the rate of decomposition depends on the structural and chemical properties of litter. Litter means the waste material or the dead organic matter. So for example, the litter of bryophytes are decomposed at a slower rate due to presence of lignin-like complex substances into their cell wall. Then temperature. Temperature also regulates the growth and activity of microorganisms. So the temperature is different at different elevations. The species diversity and the microorganism count is affected by environmental changes. So where there will be the temperature, where the place where the temperature is optimum, there will be more faster decomposition. The place where there will be very less temperature, the decomposition will be very slow, because in the less temperature or low temperature, microorganisms don't are not active very fast. Then another factor is the aeration. So oxygen present in the pores of soil helps in growth of microorganisms. In the waterlogged soil, the aerobic microorganisms are absent. Here only anaerobic microorganisms can grow and initiate decomposition. So obviously, because aerobic organisms are not there, only anaerobic microorganisms are there. So there will be less decomposition or slow decomposition. And next is the presence soil pH. The presence of cations and anions governs the pH of soil, which in turn affects microbial growth. So again, pH of the soil is affecting the growth of the microorganisms, and so if there will be slow growth of microorganism, there will be less decomposition. Next factor is the inorganic chemicals. So after decomposition, the elements like potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium are released into the soil. Some of these are used by microorganisms for their growth. Thus, because they are being used by the microorganisms for their growth, so it is affecting the rate of decomposition again. Then moisture, the water present in the soil is responsible for various physiological process of microorganisms present in the soil. So the growth of microorganisms is thus governed by presence of moisture in the soil. So if more water, the more organisms will grow. If less water, it is going to affect their growth. The next topic is energy flow in ecosystem. So energy flow is in the ecosystem is one of the major factors that support the survival of great number of organisms. Means if the energy is flowing properly in the ecosystem, then the survival of the organisms will be possible. Otherwise, they will not be surviving. For almost all organisms on earth, the primary source of energy is solar energy. This energy flow takes place via food chain and food web. Means this energy of sun is converted into energy in the food by plants, and then the food chain goes on. The plants are eaten by herbivores, that is the primary carnivores, primary consumers. Then herbivores are eaten by primary carnivores. Then primary carnivores are eaten by secondary carnivores, and then they are eaten by tertiary carnivores. So like this, the energy of sun first of all goes into plants in making their own food. Then when these plants are eaten by herbivores, it goes into primary consumers. Then it like this energy passes from one level to the other level. So this is all the explanation just now I told. Then comes the trophic level. So what is trophic level? The producers and consumers in the ecosystem can be arranged into different feeding groups. And these feeding groups are known as trophic level or feeding level. So the producers, that is the plants, represent the first trophic level. Herbivores, that is the primary consumers which feed on plant, they are present at the second trophic level. Then primary consumers, primary carnivores are the secondary consumers because they feed on herbivores, that is the primary consumers. So they will representing the third trophic level. Then top carnivores will be the tertiary consumers, because they are feeding on the primary consumers or primary carnivores or secondary consumers. So they will be the last trophic level. Now food chain. So with this diagram we will be understanding the food chain. So at first level, that is the primary producers, will be the green plants, and these green plants are eaten by primary consumers in this food chain. The primary consumer is the grasshopper. Grasshopper is eaten by rat. This will be the secondary consumer. Then rat is eaten by snake. Snake is the tertiary consumer. And snake is eaten by eagle. So this will be the top consumer. So the grasshopper eat plants, the mice eat the grasshoppers, the snake eat the mice, the eagle eat the snake. When the hawks die, fungi breaks the bodies down and turns into nutrients. So this will be the fifth level, the decomposers or fungi. Then the nutrients along with sun and water cause the grass to grow. So these nutrients at the sixth level, they will be used by the green plants for its growth. So this is the food chain. So now there are basically three different types of food chains in the ecosystem. They are grazing food chain, that is GFC. So this is the normal food chain that we observe, in which plants are producers and energy flows from producers to herbivores, then to carnivores, and so on. Second type of food chain is saprophytic or detritus food chain, DFC. In this type of food chain, the dead organic matter occupies the lowermost level of the food chain, followed by decomposers and so on. So the dead organic matter will be the producer for the decomposers. Decomposers will be feeding on this dead organic matter. Then these decomposers will release the nutrients in the soil. Then this nutrient will be used by the green plants. So like this will be the saprophytic or detritus food chain. Then parasitic food chain. In this type of food chain, large organisms, either the producers or consumers, is exploited, and therefore the food passes to the smaller organisms. So in nature, we mostly observe food web, as there are many organisms which are omnivores. As a result, they occupy multiple trophic level. Means in nature, these food chains are incorporated into food web. So in the nature, many food chains are present, and these food chains are interrelated to one another. So the mostly the we are observing food web. So here we can see that this is one of the producer, this is following one chain, this is also one of the producer, this is following one chain. Grass star cactus is eaten by kangaroo rat, then kangaroo rat is eaten by tarantula, then tarantula is eaten by rattlesnake, rattlesnake is eaten by bacteria, then rat is directly also eaten by the snake, and then snake is eaten by bacteria or decomposed by bacteria. Tarantula is also decomposed by bacteria. Here the grass is eaten by grasshopper also, and the grass is decomposed by bacteria also. So like this, many food chains are interrelated, and the trophic levels are also interrelated. So we call it as a food web. So we can say that food web represents feeding relationships within a community. This was given by Smith and Smith 2009. It also implies the transfer of food energy from its source in plants through herbivores to carnivores, told by Krebs. Normally, food web consists of a number of food chains meshed together. This we have seen in the previous picture. So each food chain is a descriptive diagram including a series of arrows, each pointing from one species to another. representing the flow of energy from one feeding group of organisms to another. Then there are two types of food chain. The grazing food chain begins with autotrophs, that is the plants, and the detrital food chain begins with dead organic matter. So in grazing food chain, energy and nutrients move from plants to herbivores consuming them, and to the carnivores or omnivores preying upon the herbivores. In detrital food chain, dead organic matter of plants and animals is broken down by decomposers and moves to detrivores and then to carnivores through plants. So this is another diagram which is showing the food web in a desert ecosystem. In this we can see the trophic levels also. So primary producers will be the plants. Plants are eaten by squirrel also, grasshopper also, which are the primary consumers or herbivores. Then the grasshopper is eaten by scorpion, and the squirrel is eaten by fox. Scorpion is also eaten by fox. So this scorpion will be the secondary consumer or third trophic level. Then the top consumer will be the fox or the golden eagle, because squirrel is also eaten by fox and also eaten by golden eagle. So these will be the secondary carnivores. There can be the tertiary carnivores also. So the food chain can be in uh, 3 levels, it can be in 4 levels. Now, Robert Payne proposed 3 types of food webs based on species of a rocky intertidal zone on the coast of Washington. So he was studying the ecosystem there, and according to these studies, he told that there are 3 types of food webs. One is the connectedness food web or topological food web. This emphasizes feeding relationships among species portrayed as links in a food web. Then energy means this is the food web which is telling the relationship of the species on feeding relationship, means on the food. But energy flow food web is showing the flow of energy from one species to another. So this diagram is showing the different 3 types of food webs. Connectedness food web shows feeding relationship among organisms. Energy flow web shows connections quantified as energy flow. Functional web emphasizes influence of population on growth rates in other population. Means the function of the organisms is affecting the growth of other organisms in the population. So this food web shows that. A nutrient cycle refers to the movement and exchange of organic and inorganic matter back into the production of living matter. Means the cycle of the nutrients, means the nutrients are being rotated from organic and inorganic matter into the living organisms and then again returned back to the environment. So this process is regulated by food web pathways, which we have shown previously. So in this process, the organic matter is decomposed into inorganic matter. Then nutrient cycles occur within ecosystem. These are water, carbon, oxygen and nitrogen cycles. Then the biogeochemical cycle. So in this what happens? The energy flows directionally through ecosystem, entering as sunlight from sunlight for phototrophs or as inorganic molecules for chemoautotrophs. Then the 6 most common elements associated with organic molecules are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus and sulfur. It take a variety of chemical forms and may exist for long periods in the atmosphere, on land, in water, or beneath Earth's surface. So these elements of the organic molecules, they are existing in these environmental conditions. So, geologic processes such as erosion, water drainage, movement of continental plates, weathering, all are involved in the cycling of elements on the earth. Because geology and chemistry have major roles in the study of this process, so the recycling of inorganic matter between living organisms and their non-living environment is called as biogeochemical cycle. So this will be the definition of biogeochemical cycle, that the recycling of inorganic matter between living organisms and their non-living environment is called as biogeochemical cycle. Now, biogeochemical cycles are of three types. They are gaseous cycle of matter. What happens here? The reservoir of usable biogenetic nutrients in is atmosphere and hydrosphere. Means the nutrients are available in the atmosphere and in the hydrosphere. So these cycles include carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen cycles. So gaseous cycles which are present either in the water bodies or in the environment. So these will be the gaseous cycles of matter in the biogeochemical cycle. Others are sedimentary cycles. In this, the nutrients are present in lithosphere. That is the land or beneath the land. So, for example, copper, zinc, calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus cycles. Then the third type is mixed cycles. So, in such cycles, the biogenetic nutrients involved have both gaseous as well as non-gaseous state. So, they are the sulfur and sulfur dioxide or hydrogen sulfide nutrients. So these are three different types of biogeochemical cycles. Now the carbon cycle. We know the importance of carbon, that all organic compounds that enter into the composition of living matter, they for example carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, enzymes, hormones, etc., they all contain carbon. So carbon constitutes at least 49% of dry weight and is next only to water in abundance into the living organism's body. So